And without further ado, we will go to our next presenter, who is a Providence native, born and raised, and now the Executive Director of the Providence Preservation Society, James Hall.
Thanks, Michael. So I thought, as we look at Providence going forward, I really believe that cities are intentional acts. Cities happen either by accident or design. They happen, buildings come and go, and I encourage you all to get involved and be part of the planning. This is a great image from the 1961 plan for Providence. This is what they believed Providence was going to look like in 1970. Here's an earlier plan, just to show you that we've had lots of big ideas about Providence, most of which thankfully have never happened. This was a wonderful a vehicular viaduct. That's the old Suicide Circle. There's the Providence Washington Insurance Company building. This was sort of a giant freeway that would have cut through the city. And if you see there in the middle of the slide where it says Cathedral, that's the Episcopal Cathedral, which just closed. And around it you see those wonderful arrows saying slum clearance. So that was the slums they were clearing is the bottom of Benefit Street. So fascinating how our perceptions appear and change. This is a gigantic sort of highway hugging the bottom. There you'll notice on the left, in the same plan from 1961, the arcade. And on the right, where the wonderful cast iron front Equitable building is, where Custom House Tavern was, and the Wilcox building, you'll see that it was replaced by, yes, a parking garage. So this was actually what was going to be the best way to look at Providence in the future. One of the things that fascinates me about this plan is the ever-present helicopter, because of course we were going to travel a lot more by helicopter. This was the combined bus station and train station, and it was actually going to be up by the State House. So this was the first plan that saw that happening. Here is the view from inside the train and bus station, looking toward downtown Providence. You'll notice that most of the historic buildings, including City Hall and the yellow brick train station from 1890, have been removed and replaced with a giant pedestrian plaza. You can see sort of a spire in the distance there. Here are some people landing by helicopter. And much of it would have looked much like sort of a giant blown-up version of Lincoln Center. And much of the land that was cleared, rather than to be developed as it was eventually in Capitol Center, was set aside, yes, for parking. So here is Kennedy Plaza, and you'll notice that these people are walking over sort of a sky bridge, and Washington Street continues through Kennedy Plaza, but below this bridge. There's the State House in the distance. On the right is a new auditorium building. Banished cars, lots of parking, but cars banished. There we've shown you Providence City Hall, which in its day was, in 1961, was deemed outmoded, ugly, depressing, dirty, and what they proposed replacing it with, where that arrow is this sort of bizarre, very severe modernist box. And there again you can see, if you look at Kennedy Plaza, the bridge over Washington Street. There's the train station. So we're sitting, the train station with the wonderful sort of Marcel Breuer arches is sitting approximately in the location of the Providence Place Mall, and you can see surrounded by a sea of parking. So the next time someone says this is a really good big idea, say, let's think about that for a minute. On the far right of the image, you can see that there is the bottom of the Superman building, and to the left of it, retail on the first floor, and what's the top 6 floors of that? Parking. So we already have too much parking, but in 1961 they thought we should have even more. Here's the one piece of it that did get implemented. On the left is the Peerless building. This was the one part that was implemented, which was it's Westminster Street, and was turned into a pedestrian mall, redone 10 years later, and then eventually they realized it wasn't a particularly good idea to begin with, and it was torn up and a street put back in. Another wonderful moment, this is the College Hill study, and this is actually at the base of that wonderful Roger Williams Memorial. So the upper side of Benefit Street was going to be replaced by this remarkable hotel called the Golden Ball Inn. And there you can see the people looking over the prospect, a few colonial houses left below. This is approximately across the street from the architecture building. And I have to come clean and say that my organization, the Providence Preservation Society, endorsed this plan. So this was South Main Street. Here is, again, a plan endorsed by the Providence Preservation Society in 1967 that called for a gigantic tower at the corner of Benefit Street and Wickenden Street. And these are the buildings that would have been replaced. The colonial buildings would be replaced to make way for the parking for all the people who are going to live there. But preservationists love symmetry, so at the north end of Benefit Street they were going to do much the same thing. And this is the tower planned for the north end of Benefit Street. And yes, Benefit Street would become an entirely pedestrian mall. So they would have torn off the whole northern end of Benefit Street. Then the environmental movement came, and with the environmental movement came a much more sort of incremental and interesting plan called Interface Providence from 1974. This is what is now the RISD dorms and library in the old Hospital Trust building. There's the World War II Memorial in its original location, surrounded by water. And in the place of what these people were actually much more preservation-minded, and they proposed saving and reusing as a train station, the old train station, novel idea, and building in front of it a remarkable sort of series of Moshe Safdie-style sort of 1967 housing and shops. And as you know, we have just spent a lot of time and money and effort improving and finally making way Bassett Street two ways again. But in 1974, they saw it with a monorail down the center of it and much more pedestrian traffic. The fascinating thing about this monorail was each of those cars only held 4 people. It may have been rapid transit, but it wasn't mass transit by any means. In 1974, the Interface Providence plan called for a much more really fascinating sort of look at how to reintroduce the Cove Pond. You all know Capitol Center and beer break. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. If you've ever had the privilege of going through some of the old plans at the PPS offices, it's absolutely incredible, the things that were thought of for this city in previous years. The caliber of presenters this evening is amazing. I see a lot of wonderful new faces this evening also, so I thank you for coming. We're going to pause for about 15-20 minutes so you can grab some more drinks, you can get some tacos or burritos from Mijos, and then we're going to come on and we have 4 more presentations after the break. So we're going to break for about 20 minutes or so, and we'll meet up a little bit later. So thank you.